Hello there. I did my presentation on Robert Sternberg, so I'm going to take you through some of the information that I learned while researching. I'm going to start with a brief biography about Mr. Sternberg, move through his beliefs, his theories, and conclude with his model. He was born December 8th, 1949. He is an American psychologist who is the professor of human development at Cornell University. He earned his bachelor's degree from Yale and his PhD from Stanford. He has developed many psychological theories about such things as wisdom, love, leadership, and intelligence. He has earned over 24 awards for his work in psychology. Some of Sternberg's beliefs include his belief that intelligence is not a fixed entity, but rather a flexible and dynamic one. He believes intelligence has always been about adaptation to your environment, and that intelligence is complex and multifaceted. It was that last belief that kind of spurred much of his work. He believed that the contemporary view of intelligence was much too limited, so he developed his theories to kind of tell about how it was much more complex. One of those theories was the theory of successful intelligence. This theory suggests that intelligence is complex and is more than, as some people suggest, simply having a single ability. According to Sternberg in his theory, successful intelligence is defined as one's ability to set and accomplish personally meaningful goals in one's life. This definition of success emphasizes a need not only for the ability to set goals, but also to accomplish them. Thus, there's an implied requirement of production or output. A little more on the theory of successful intelligence. According to the theory, in order to be successful, a person must identify their strengths and their weaknesses. Then they will be able to capitalize on their strengths and correct their weaknesses. We want to capitalize on those strengths and correct your weaknesses or minimize your weaknesses. Strengths and weaknesses are in terms of 4 kinds of skills. So we think about kind of just broadly strengths and weaknesses, but Sternberg says that they're all going to fit into one of these 4 categories. So they're going to be creative skills, which are needed to generate novel and useful ideas; analytical skills, needed to determine which of your ideas are good ones; practical skills, which are needed to apply ideas and convince others of their value; and wisdom, which is needed to ensure that implementation of ideas will be for the common good. So this idea that the strengths and weaknesses are more specific and are related to one of 4 kinds of skills leads into a componential sub-theory, which falls underneath the theory of multiple intelligence. And he says that the mental processes of all these skills are the same. Meta-components plan, monitor, and evaluate courses of thinking and action. Performance components implement the instruction of the meta-components, and knowledge acquisition components learn how to solve problems in the first place. So they all work together, and he says that these mental processes are relevant for any of those skills, but your strengths and weaknesses will fall within one of those 4 categories. So this leads into his theoretical model, or his approach to giftedness. One of the things that Sternberg and his team did was test his theory in the educational setting in a number of ways, including reaction time analysis, cultural analysis, factor analysis, correlational analysis, predictive analysis, and instructional analysis. These were just a few that I found, about 6 of them that I found, of a long list of ways that he tested his theory in the educational setting. Furthermore, according to Sternberg, students' strengths and weaknesses should be identified early. Their instruction should be tailored to build on their strengths, and they personally should work to correct their weaknesses. This is the formula for success, if you will. Lastly, Sternberg has also done research in standardized testing, which we see a lot in education, concluding that these tests are often biased in favor of the background of the people who created the tests. Thus, they do not always test what they are meant to test for. Sternberg makes sure to point out that he doesn't believe the tests are useless, just that they need to be altered a little bit. More specifically, they need to be revised to be fair for all backgrounds and ethnicities. I will me to my conclusion, in which I will say Sternberg, as many people have, has had a large impact on the psychology of education and intelligence. We've got just a little snippet of that here, but if you do more research on Sternberg, you'll find that he has had a huge impact, not only in the world of education intelligence, but also in many other aspects. I mentioned earlier that he's got theories about wisdom and love and leadership and things like that. So, um, because of all this work, according to Google Scholar, he has been cited over 210,000 times in other works. He has been cited by ISI for being one of the most highly cited, top half of 1% among psychologists and psychiatrists. So all of his work, very broad spectrum work, in a number of areas, has made him a very popular psychologist and psychiatrist. And a lot of people, I think, kind of believe in his theories. So that is what I have about Robert Sternberg. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned a little bit.